So hello and welcome back
Oh,
to our episode of the Safe Wellbeing Podcast, and I am delighted today to be joined by Sheila Matthew of Crosby Matthew Funeral Directors. So Sheila, I'm going to hand it over to you to let everyone listening or watching us back. Who is Sheila? Who is Crosby Matthew? And just hand it over to you, let you tell everyone.
thank you, Katie. Yes, my name is Sheila Matthew. I'm Managing Director of Crosby Matthew Funeral Directors. We're based in Fife in Scotland. We have 4 branches of business here in Fife, 15 staff, I think, at the moment, and we do conduct just under probably 500 funerals a year. I've worked here for 35 years this year.
Wow.
So it's a wee bit of time. And I didn't grow up with the business, but my father bought the business when I was quite near the end of school. He'd been a coal merchant his whole life and retired, didn't like retirement, and came home one day and said to my mum and I've just bought a business. So we thought that was a bit weird. I went off to university, did a degree in psychology and business studies, which has actually coincidentally been quite useful. And then I travelled for a bit, and then I came back and said to Dad, I'll help you out for a wee while I decide what I'm going to do with my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still here 35 years later. So I just, from the start, thought it was so interesting, so amazing. Had no idea that, to be honest, so many people died. I think when you're younger, you don't really think about that. So it was a bit of a shock to me, to start with. And then I stayed. So way back, whenever it was, I did my diploma in funeral directing, which that's all changed now. That was probably in the early 90s. And even although all these years have gone by, I still feel like every day is a school day. You never quite know what's going to happen. You never know what's going to come in the door. You don't know what families you're going to look after. It's always different. It's a great job from that point of view, because there's not the same. There are things you repeat, obviously, routines, but you don't know what's going to happen in a day. And also the business side of things, with staff, there's always changes there. There's people, that develop, people that come and go over the years. So that always changes as well, and it keeps it really interesting, I think.
I bet. And I think, first of all, I was very much in your position 10 years ago. Went in for a couple of days to help in between finishing college. It was 2 days while staff were on holiday and off things, and 10 years later I'm still, not sure what I want to do, But from your point of view, when I read things and known some of the background of how you got into the funeral industry, coming into the industry at a time where you're very much male dominated. So I can only imagine that, being one of only few females at the time, to then, making your way through, getting your diploma, to now being managing director. At any point, the difficulty in which you experience not only being a woman at the infancy of women in the industry, but as you've gone up to managing director to where you are today.
Mm-hmm. I think I've been really lucky there, because again, going back to my dad buying the business, when I was a child and he ran the coal business, I can picture myself being in the car with him one day and him saying to me, because I had 2 older brothers, saying to me, there's nothing you can't do because you're a woman that you couldn't do for a man if you put your mind to it and you work hard. So I got that message from a young age, and I came into the business early 20. I would have been in my early 20s at the time, fully with his support. And yes, it was all male, the company at the time. I've never really felt that was it much of an issue. I mean, yes, you did have people maybe looking at you as you're driving the hearse. I think we just chatted about that earlier. I never came across anyone was never rude to me or prejudiced against me in any way. The only thing I can think of that's quite funny is sometimes when you answer the phone and they say, "Oh, could I speak to the business owner?" And you say, "Oh, yes, speaking." Those callers never believe you. You know, they think, "Oh no, but could you put me through to the person of the business?" Well, I just think that's quite funny. I mean, that's their problem, not my problem, because you know, they've just missed out. You know, whatever it is they're trying to sell me. So I think I've been really fortunate. I've just gone to meetings over the years, and everybody's welcomed me. And yes, there's certain aspects of the job that I can't lift as heavy a weight, obviously, as some of my colleagues. And we've always had a mixed staff, so we've always had male and female staff. That's worked out brilliantly, sort of crossover in roles mainly, although and also the people that have helped me in business, so accountants, bank managers, any professionals that I've worked with, male and female, have always been really welcoming and respectful. So I don't personally feel it's been something that's affected me, and I don't know whether that's goes back to that childhood conversation that if you feel you belong in the room, then you belong in the room, you know, and you, until proven otherwise. I'd always give somebody the benefit of the doubt if they said something. I mean, I used to be in Rotary. I was in Rotary Club for 20 years locally in Glenrothes, and when I first started, there were only a handful of women in that club. And that gradually changed over the years. And I know there were one or two there that weren't maybe that keen, but they did see that there were things that were brought to the table by everyone, you know, whether they were men or women. I've kind of always shied away from all female business clubs.
Yep.
That's, for some people, that maybe is something they would enjoy. I've never really felt that was something I would need or particularly want to be involved in. You know, I would go to meetings that were probably mixed.
Yeah, and do you think, you know, that going back to that childhood conversation, that's sort of been like an affirmation that from your first day at Crosby Matthew to even today, it's something that is a true value that, you know, with all your experience through these years, it's made a difference. It certainly speaks to me as a woman, certainly being surrounded by a lot of, you know, men growing up as well, especially like going to things like football, you know, and listening to the environment where, you know, I was the only woman in the business when I first started. So, you know, I think that's any woman listening to this could really take a lot away from that, and just know that, you know, I suppose we're in a world now of diversity, and, you know, very much 50-50, that we've all got a place in the room and a seat at the table. And I think that's really key. And coming off the back of that, you know, you mentioned about not having the same physical capabilities as others. It's very much, you know, a female to male difference. There's a huge difference. But how would you say that, you know, the physicality that you can bring for, you know, who you need to be as Sheila, both, you know, a work-life balance Sheila and you know, Sheila who is running the business at the end of the day, you know, looking after you?
Yeah, of course. Keeping physically fit and active is really important, and also separating work from home.
Yeah,
I think I did decide that a long time ago when I had my family, that, you know, I would have to leave certain things behind, which is easier said than done. I mean, let's face it, we've all woken up in the night with a problem going through your head that you can't get around, and that's part of running a business, because things will stick with you until you sort them out, you know, and that's usually done by talking it through with whoever it is you know you trust that you would make good decisions with. and then carrying out, you know, sometimes maybe a difficult conversation. But apart from those bits that sort of seep into your home life, I think it is a case of trying to separate that, as keep yourself healthy at home. I mean, I had quite a young family when I was going to Rotary and building the business, and sometimes I do look back and think, oh, jinx, how did I manage some of those days that were really, really busy? It's a bit easier now because our children are all grown up. And so I've got an amazing array of things that I can do in my spare time. And I think it's having stuff that gets you out your head.
Yeah, total distraction.
Yeah, so I sing in a choir. I mean, when you're learning words and things like that, you can't think about anything else.
Yeah.
I go to a gym in the morning, to classes. I play tennis. I go to a dance fit class, which is absolutely brilliant. Because when you're learning dance steps, you can't think about anything else.
You have to learn to do that.
Your feet are going everywhere. So I'm lucky that I've got all these things locally that I can really enjoy. And so it's just finding what you enjoy. And for me, it's a variety. I like to do, I used to run a lot, and then my knees decided that wasn't a good idea. So I think you have to then find different things, physically and mentally, don't you, that keep you.
And is that, would you say, you know, that key for the physical aspect, you know, that is a distraction, but it's also a release for the busyness, the stress, and it just gives something for you to focus on.
100%. And I mean, we've got 2 dogs. They get walked every day. That's always a good time, isn't it? A walk and a chat with whoever you're walking with, or not a chat, just to think about, you know, what's happening. Being outside, that's really important. So it's just building these things into your routine, which is hard when you've got a job that can break into your routine, you know, because it isn't really just a 9-to-5 job. So it's somehow having that, reverting to that whenever you can, you know, making sure you go. And you hear all sports people say it, don't they, when they're training. There's days you don't feel like going. Like, I think last Thursday night, to be honest, the last thing I felt like doing was going to my choir. Yep. You go anyway, and then an hour and a half later, you're thinking, so glad I came, because it just does what you need it to do.
Yeah.
So that's, it's just finding the things, isn't it, that you will stick with.
That work for you. Massively. And you know, through having all of that variety that you've got, and through the years with the running as well, not forgetting before your knees gave in, you know, the biggest challenges and the difficulties that you've had to experience throughout your last 35 years, you know, how did you navigate it? You know, what did it teach you, and how could it help anyone feeling those similar feelings currently?
I think when I've had tough times, which running the business have normally been either something to do with a member of staff or a family who, say, haven't been happy with something and you're having to deal with it, I usually think back because if you decide what your basic principles are of how you're going to run the business, and you just go back to them, you know, you refer back to those for every decision, I think that helps just kind of keep you on track, because sometimes you just get too bogged down with the detail of something. And again, you know, that kind of goes back to the great relationship I had with my dad, and because we used to have our meetings walking around the park, which is near here where I work, with the dog. One round could normally solve most issues. And, you know, it came back to, you know, putting the staff first, always looking after the people you work with. Then, you know, obviously your customer, very customer centric, paying your bills on time. Supporting other local business, local charities, you know, because sometimes you have decisions to make, don't you, about what company you're going to use, or, you know, my dad goes,
just as important.
Buy local, support local, you know, look after your sort of local people. treat other people as you'd want to be treated yourself, you know. So every decision, yeah, you're just kind of going back to those things. And one of the other things, and it actually just cropped up today, was stick to what you're good at. Do your job, right? So we're good at being funeral directors and organising funerals, and then delegate the other things.
Mm-hmm.
So either use another professional organisation. For example, I use a company now that do all my payroll for me. So I send them the information, they process it. Because that was a thing that I really didn't particularly enjoy doing. So lean on other professionals as well, you know, other companies, and you make good relationships doing that, you know.
Yeah.
People that you know, you trust, and they work similarly to you. Because today we've just had a request for a marquee to go up in the garden for a funeral to happen in the marquee, and the family want it recorded and live streamed and whatever. And so, you know, you've got good contacts, you know, you can phone people that's their job, you know. They film it, they live stream it, they're going to do it really, really well. Whereas if you try and do that yourself, you're just giving yourself a whole load of stress. You know, is it going to go right? Is it going to work? You know, and yeah, so you get on with what you're good at, and let other people be good at what they're good at. So that's quite, sounds obvious, doesn't it? But it can help you just get through sort of these decisions.
And you've highlighted though that you can get very bogged down and overwhelmed with everything you've got to think about, which is why you then detract by going to the choir or classes or whatever it is, you know. And that brings it back to knowing where your strengths are, knowing and how to stick with what you're good at. Now, you did mention there about, you know, staff being really important, families. Now, I did hear, a little birdie did tell me that you are one of the most caring individuals to their staff. So I wanted to ask the question, why is that important, you know, with working alongside your dad, first and foremost, to today? Like, that is, from the little birdie that told me, I'm not going to name them, but you can probably guess who it is. You know, why is it of your most importance to look after your staff and to make sure that they're okay?
Well, number one, they're my work colleagues that I work with every day, you know, and you want to have a good, you know, I love coming to work. I love the people I work with. We chat to each other, we support each other through things. So yeah, they're people you like being with. They are the most important asset in the company. I mean, you could have lovely cars and lovely buildings, but if you don't have the people, you know, really you don't have a business. So, and then for their sake, you know, obviously you want them to have a good work-life balance where possible, and to be happy at their work, because you see it yourself. If you're happy and enthusiastic and you're passionate about your job, then you're going to do a good job.
Yeah.
And if you're half-hearted and you don't really want to be there and you're just waiting for the next paycheck, then, you know, I'm not really that interested in that kind of person being here. Yeah,
no, I think that's,
you know, that sounds quite brutal, doesn't it? So yeah, because absolutely, definitely, you're right. In this industry, you can't be half-hearted, because that's just going to end in a complete disaster.
Yeah.
So it's just it makes life so much nicer, and it makes so much sense, doesn't it, if everybody that's around us, and yet don't get me wrong, everybody has an off day and feeling like, you know, but that's where it, you know, the rest of the team can lift you up and get you through that. That's what you really need to happen.
And from that, then having the, you know, the good working environment with all your colleagues, do you feel that you know, gives the high standards that you hold for the families that then entrust you with the loss of their loved one, and it just, there's a nice balance to that from the start of the process to carrying out the funeral?
Yeah, 100%. And we send out little comment forms, you know, with our accounts, and we get a lot back and a lot of lovely cards and thank yous. And I mean, you know, it's like when your office is always full of chocolates and sweets that people keep handing in that you're trying not to eat. And they mention everyone by name, you know, how much they helped them, all the little details, the things that they took the trouble to do or explain or help with. And so that's amazing, you know, that we get feedback like that. There's not many jobs. I mean, I remember chatting to my cousin's wife who worked in NHS 24, you know, really busy call centre, high pressure, lots of stress environment, you know, people phoning up really upset. They don't find out how that person is. They get no feedback. All they know is they've answered that call, they've told them to, I don't know, turn up at A&E or do whatever they've advised them to do. They don't know what happens after that. To me, that's a stressful job. That's a job where you get no feedback, nothing to tell you, you know, if you've done it right or not. Whereas with us, and because funerals turn around within a couple of weeks, you get feedback straight away, you know, and if something isn't right, you'll soon be told. And thankfully, most of the time, people come back very grateful of how you've helped them. I mean, that the job satisfaction from that is incomparable. I just think it's amazing.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, especially when you're trying not to eat the chocolate though, and they bring chocolate I want to resist is very difficult.
I know. Well, I went to have a biscuit today, but the tin was actually still sealed shut, so I saved myself.
Not be the first one.
It wasn't open.
And from that, you know, when you know your colleagues get their feedback, would you say that then provides a nice environment of well-being across all your colleagues? You know, because it reassures they are doing you know, a good job in such difficult circumstances, especially if it's related to perhaps, you know, suicide or, you know, something horrific that has happened, you know, for this funeral to now you're a part of it, that it just gives everyone a kind of, not just a reassurance, but a kind of little bit of motivation and, you know, passion that, keep doing the job that we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And just knowing that little, you know, touch that you put on that made a difference, that does definitely keep you going, you know, for the tough times. I think that's for sure.
And from all that, you know, the biggest benefit of looking after yourself, so if you were having a conversation with any of your colleagues, or being the caring individual that I have been told that you have been and that you're sharing with me today, you know, do you think that has a better impact on not only who yourself and all colleagues and whoever needs to be professionally, but also allows the more of a freedom when it comes to work-life balance, especially within the industry that we're a part of?
Yeah. So, I think you're right. It's looking at the full picture, isn't it? It's not just about what you're doing when you're at work. And then it's encouraging everyone to, you know, you do create a culture, a sort of environment of looking after yourself, because you know that's how you're going to have the resources to keep going. And so you chat about, you know, I think we were saying recently there was an article about everyone in Scotland should be having vitamin D because we're not getting enough sunshine.
Yeah, that would be true.
So even something as simple as that could help you, you know, take that every day and start to think, oh, I don't feel quite as tired as I was, you know, over the winter. So just talking about things like that in the staff and what everyone's doing, and everyone's aware of how everybody keeps fit and, you know, looks at what somebody's brought in for their lunch. You know,
that seems to be a culture I'm learning about. You know, and certainly when I'm floating about the office, they think, oh no, is she going to come in and tell us we can't have the cake? I still buy the cakes for everyone. I will put my hands up, you know, and
absolutely.
If someone has a fish supper or something like that, they're like, oh, look at you having salad, you know. They're still like, but it's you know, I suppose that kind of the kind of banter of that and the you know, just the normal back and forth is just as important. And I wanted to finish by asking, I've asked everyone this that's come on the podcast, you know, if you were to have any advice, any tips, any messages for anyone listening to, you know, or watching the conversation that we've had today, I want to ask it in kind of two separate ways. I want to first of all ask it in terms of a female to female within the industry, and then as managing director to another managing director that might be listening to this. So I wanted to split it up.
Okay, I'll try.
So we'll go with female to female first. Let's do that.
So this is any piece of advice that I would give for...
Yep, any piece of advice, tips, messages for anyone in the industry. It could be well-being, it could be just, you know, a kind of motivation, kind of like your affirmation from your dad, anything that may just help reaffirm the message that we're all in this together. We're all doing such difficult jobs, but we're still here, and you know, we're here at the end of the day to help all of our families.
I think just knowing that, just talking to other people, I think that's the main, keeping communication lines open with your people you work with. So if you are feeling a bit, you know, under the pressure a wee bit, that at least someone knows that, you know, someone close to you at work or at home. And just a problem shared is a problem halved, isn't it? No matter what way you look at it, that just getting those words out and someone going, right, okay, and they see it from a slightly different point of view. Yeah. And you gets you through that, something that you're just tying yourself up with, or something that's upsetting you. Just the talking and feeling like you've got a safe place for that. And I think that's the thing, is creating that safe place, isn't it, at work? You can talk to someone. One that's not always available in places and things. So it's important raising that. A lot of people that have been on the podcast everyone has not been, you know, not spoke to one another doing it. Yeah. Everyone is sharing very much the same message, that talking is a very much a key part of all of this, to continue the conversation. And I think you put it really nicely, you know, creating that safe place, that safe working environment, that problem shared is a problem halved. I've said it back to front. And it really is, and sometimes that can just not take away anything that anyone's feeling or going through, but it can just create a sense of relief to just even get out. Yeah. But what about, you know, non-judgmental, isn't it? It's because what could upset someone else might not upset you, so it's just kind of putting yourself in someone else's shoes, isn't it? Yeah, which is hard. But from one managing director to another, what would you say someone running a business? Yeah, I think it's focusing on the team that you're building, and you know, looking at the strengths and weaknesses, because everybody will bring both of those, and then using, you know, everyone's strengths as best they can, as you can, to make the team, you know, really work really well together. Because we all make mistakes from time to time, and so it's having that kind of support network, I suppose, that we all know each other would pick up, you know, if you miss something, someone else has got it for you. That and how you make that happen, I don't think there's an easy answer to that. I think it's a process of learning to trust each other. Yeah, like a journey. Yeah, and just again being, some of the time it's having a laugh together, isn't it? It's because people look in on, that's a sad job you must do, you know. And yes, there are really sad elements to what we do, But it's so much more than that. It's so much more uplifting than that, because you're all kind of there doing it together, and you couldn't do this job on your own.
No, it would be very, very difficult to do it on your own. But I think,
and no one's indispensable as well. Maybe that, I think someone did tell me that years ago when I worked in a bigger company. Don't sort of try and delegate, learn. I know that's probably hard maybe for some business owners to trust other people, that, let it go a little bit.
Yeah.
You can't do it all yourself. You have to trust other people to do things.
Because the balance of that is burnout, is
yes,
you do it at the detrimental of perhaps your own health. So looking after you is key to that. But I think the way that you've shared, I'm certainly going to take away from this about, being a woman, and you can do the job just as well as any man. That's going to stick with me, and I hope that anyone listening back or watching our conversation can take a lot away that I have. I get the pleasure to do this, and I take a lot away from every episode that I've done so far. So Sheila, thank you very much for your time today. It's been fantastic. And I hope everybody listening back, enjoys the conversation as much. So Sheila, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Bye just now.